Hey, hey, hey. Welcome back to yet another episode of Just Start From Ideas to Action. Jacqueline here. And I know that I normally say I am so excited almost at the top of every episode. So I'm going to keep it consistent. I am so excited because we are about to release episode number 175, which is a really big deal. Every 25 episodes or so, I've been doing something a little bit different. I've been coming to you direct to camera, not just audio, and doing something exciting, which is I get a chance to see you. Well, wait, you get a chance to see me. I don't get a chance to see you. And this time we're doing something even more different in that I'm not having a guest. You just get 100% me. So if you're listening to this on Apple Music or Google Play or Spotify, that's cool. But know that you can head over to YouTube, to my YouTube page, and actually watch this, which in my opinion is a bit more exciting. So episode 175 is a super special one for a couple of different reasons. Number one is it's 175, so that in itself is a big deal to us anyway, and hopefully to you as well. But secondly, it is introducing something that we are going to focus a lot on in 2024. We are going to focus on the ability for you to sample yourself. We're going to focus on the opportunity for you to stop looking around to find all these new things, new trainings, new books. I mean, I like new books, right? I just released a book not that long ago. But let's be honest. You have a bunch of books and a bunch of trainings and a bunch of certifications and a whole bunch of skills that you keep underrating in your life. Have you truly taken stock of your opportunity to sample yourself? The skills and behaviors that you already have within you that you can utilize to exponentialize, to level up, to take yourself to different levels. So I want to formally introduce you to episode number 175, Sampling Yourself, Learning to Leverage Your Own Experiences. Now, to be honest with you, this is for you, but it's also for me because I am someone who likes to create. I mean, newsflash here, I own 2 trademarks in 2 different categories called Just Start. So it's no secret that I love to start stuff and I love to encourage other people just like you to start stuff as well. But sometimes when you do a little bit too much starting, you're not living in the experiences, you're not living in the credentials, you're not living in the degrees and the certifications and the learnings that you already have. Instead, you're just starting and starting and starting and starting. And here's the deal. I'm always going to encourage you to just start. It is literally built within me. But I'm going to always encourage you to start smart because some of you are refusing to start, refusing to step into the leader that you know you are capable of being because you think you need something else. You forgot that you already read that book and you have that knowledge in the back of your mind. You forgot that you got those 1, 2, 3 degrees, certifications. You took that class online and so you're looking for more stuff when you already got the stuff you need to get started. So that's newsflash number 1. I'm doing this for you and I'm also doing this for me because I too like to start. So I have to remind myself to sample myself. And I'm going to share with you how that's showing up for me personally and how that's showing up for Scarlett and the Just Start brand a little bit later in the episode. The second thing I'm going to share with you is another news flash. And it might seem a little bit in left field here, but let me just get straight to it. In my early 20s, I was fired from a job. I was fired from Comerica Bank. I was an overnight check processor. So my job pretty much at midnight was to process checks. All right. Now, something else you should know about me in conjunction with me getting fired from this job is that I am a certified morning person. My friends know it. Like I'm waking up in the morning, sending them funny memes, sending them messages. I'm getting all the stuff done in the morning. I am not a night person usually. I mean, unless it's been planned, unless we say, hey, we're hitting it, we're dancing, we're hanging out, and I already have it lodged in my mind day to day, I'm not a night person. And I know that about myself. But guess what? I forgot, right? Or maybe I was too early in my career and in my life to realize that that was something that was a true core foundational trait. And the reason why I say newsflash is because, I don't know if I've ever publicly shared the story that I was fired from Comerica Bank. But secondly, it's because there are things about us, ways that we are engineered, designed, right, that we are just not being honest about. Some of you know that your mind moves fast. Some of you know that you can't handle a whole bunch of information at one time. Some of you know that you're morning people. You know that you're night people. There are things about you that just are, right? And so are you being honest about those things and using them to help you elevate? Versus me pretending like I'm a night person and then I'm going to really prevail processing checks at nighttime, knowing that the reason why I got fired is because I kept falling asleep and putting the checks in wrong. Okay. Like that is literally a foundational core of myself. So are we being honest? Like, are we learning more about ourselves? Are we being honest about what our defaults are to make sure that we are working smarter and not harder? Okay. So I really wanted to be honest about those two quick news flashes because many of us have our own news flashes that we already know about ourselves. And if we are honest, it can help serve us and also help us to be more effective in sampling ourselves. Okay. So let's talk about this journey of sampling yourself. What does that look like? Like, how can that show up? The first thing I want you to do when we're talking about sampling yourself is I want you to embrace your facts, okay? Your goods, your bads, and I want you to be mindful of the possibilities and the feelings that sometimes pop up when you're embracing your facts, all right? Because to be honest with you, when I wrote down that I was going to tell you all that I got fired from that job, I was like, oh my gosh, like, am I really about to say this, right? It just feels a little bit overwhelming and slightly embarrassing, although that was over 20 years ago, all right? Now, I also want you to think about embracing your facts on the other end of that wheel. And here's what I mean when I say that. Yes, it is difficult for me to admit that I was fired from a job, right? But for many of us, it's difficult to admit that you have something that you are great at or that you are really good at, okay? So if I asked you right now to get around some friends and to tell them what you are really good at, how does that make you feel, right? Some people may think, oh my gosh, that is totally cringeworthy. I don't want to do that because I feel like I'm gloating. I feel like I'm bragging. I feel like I'm boasting about myself. And here is one key thing that I want you to keep in mind as it relates to sampling yourself. I want you to think about the facts about yourself. Because if you think of the things that you're going to write down, hopefully, right? Because I'm going to talk through the process of how you actually go about sampling yourself. I want you to think about it in terms of facts. When you think of, hey, I am good at X, the fact is, then it makes it a lot easier to talk about yourself. Because otherwise you're like, oh, am I gloating? Am I taking up too much space? Am I being somebody who is just bragging? I want you to think, like, what are the facts about yourself? The good facts, the facts that you're just like, oh, I'm really, really good at that. And the facts, honestly, that maybe make you a little cringeworthy are the things that you're not so proud of. All right. I want you to get comfortable with really documenting and being aware of what your facts are. I want you to embrace your facts. All right. I also want you to think about what are your experiences. Okay. So go with me here for this moment. Think about the jobs that you've had. All right. If I think about the very first job that I had, I worked at Subway. All right. I was a sandwich artist. I had a job particularly young in my life. I won't throw out the year, although I'm pretty sure nobody can get in trouble for that now. But I started working way before I was supposed to be working, y'all. All right. I've been making money for a long time. Not the most money, but I've been making money for a long time. And the truth of the matter is, if I think about my first job, there are some skills that I acquired in my first job that still serve me well. All right. I am a pretty hospitable person. I'll go out and say that fact, right? Meaning that when people come over my home, when people are in my space, in my care, I take care of them. That's really, really important to me. And although I really was introduced to that concept a long time ago as a sandwich artist, that has stuck with me. I take great pride in good customer service, in being hospitable to other people, and that's a skill set that I have. And sometimes we forget that with all the jobs that we've had, if I think about just rattling off a few that I had off the top of my head, I worked at Subway, I worked at Dots, I worked at Hallmark, I worked at Wayne State University, I've worked at Ford Motor Company, I've worked at a lot of different jobs. I've had a lot of different career opportunities. And independent of if I loved those jobs or not, I acquired some skills that has formed who I am today and the skills that I have. And sometimes we will forget even the jobs that no longer make it to your resume, because let's just be real here. Subway hasn't been on my resume in a long time. Okay, I have some other jobs that have totally outlived that Subway stop in my life. but those are still skills that I have. So I want you to think about, what are your experiences, and not just the experiences that make their way to the top of your resume, the experiences that are in that really pristine, wonderful bio that's on your website or on LinkedIn or wherever else you make professional connections. What are the experiences that you have, and what are the skill sets that are attached to those experiences? This is important because I know that the world moves very fast. And for many of us, we can't remember what we were doing last week, right? So if I ask you, hey, do you have any customer service experience, have any hospitality experience? Many of our first jobs, right, were customer service or food service type jobs. But we forget about those things. And so as I'm getting you into the mindset of sampling yourself and tapping into the skills that you already have deep within you, I need you to go on this journey of remembering your experiences. What are the experiences that you've had, and the skill sets that are attached to those experiences? Okay. Now, as we're continuing to formulate our minds around sampling ourselves, let's get comfortably uncomfortable. All right. And I'm right here with you. I got this blazer on right now, but I sort of kind of want to take it off as I'm even thinking about this next recommendation I'm going to make to you. Okay. Let's all get comfortably uncomfortable with sitting in our wins. Okay. This might be one of the most important things we're going to talk about today, because as we're thinking about sampling ourselves, it is important that we're not quickly and by default moving on to the next thing without sitting in our wins. I'll give you a prime example. My second book, The Unexpected Leader, Discovering the Leader Within You, which by the way has a nice little nod to it right here on my right. You can't see the full piece here, but my husband had this wonderful artwork that was created. That's actually the cover of my book. It's wonderful. Maybe I'll create a link to it so that you can see it somewhere in the actual video, or you'll go to a web page and see it. But I'm really, really proud of what he created, and I'm very grateful that he did. But my second book, The Unexpected Leader, Discovering the Leader Within You, was a wonderful project. And that book is still actively selling, actively impacting lives. I'm still incredibly proud of the work that we did in partnership with Wiley Publishing. Well, as soon as I finished writing that book, and as soon as the book hit the bookshelves, guess what questions I'm getting from other people, and guess what questions I'm thinking myself? It's, oh, Jacqueline, when are you going to write that next book? When's the next book going to be? I was quickly about to get outside of the realm of sitting in the wins, okay, sitting in that particular win. I know that the world makes us feel like we got to hurry up and create more content, create more blog posts, create more social posts, create more stories, create more TikToks, create more reels. If it's not the newest, freshest thing, then is it exciting, right? The truth is that your wins, the ones that you've had, the ones that are important to you, are still incredibly impactful, and they still have the opportunity to change your life and change the lives of others. But are we sitting in them long enough? And so I've challenged myself to sit in the content of that second book for several years instead of feeling like I need to rush on and create another book. So how about you? Are you sitting in your wins? Instead of thinking, you know what, I did that thing, I wrote that report, I wrote that article, that blog post, and now let me quickly create something else. Is it possible that you can create something from that thing? A lot of things that we're doing next year, which I'll share with you in just a short while, how we are sampling ourselves over at Scarlet, it's a result of me tapping into our arsenal and our archives of the things that we've created over the past 10 years, because some stuff just didn't shine as bright as I thought it would shine. Some people never saw that article, never saw that blog post, never read either of my books. And so it's time to resurface that stuff back up to the top. It's time to remix a lot of things that we did to make sure that we're maximizing on all that time we spent on those assets, and help people like you see themselves as leaders, elevate to their next level of leadership, and start the things that they truly want to do. So I'm going to be a role model and do it, but I'm asking you to go on this journey with me. Are you sitting in your wins? Okay. Now let's talk about what this looks like for 2024. I've talked about sampling myself, sitting in the wins, doing audits of the experiences that we've had, all that good stuff. What does this look like for us in 2024? Now, I'm going to say again, there is some slight discomfort that I have with this. And not because I don't think it's a good idea, but just because I like to create. I mentioned at the top of our time together that I am the owner of two trademarks called Just Start. All right. And I feel really good about those. But just like I tell you to just start and I'm encouraging you to do it, guess who's constantly encouraging themselves to just start? My mind. My mind has a million different ideas a day that I'm constantly documenting. All right. And word to the wise here. One of the ways that I stay focused and document the things that are ideas, the things that I think, ooh, I should do this, is I use Asana. Asana is our task management software. And what we do with Asana is we have a list in there, me and my colleague Tynesha, and it's called Ideas. It's literally called Jacqueline's Idea List. And I have a ton of ideas in there of things that I come up with all the time because I have to get it out. Because sometimes if you don't get it out, you just keep thinking about it, thinking about it, thinking about it. But more importantly, sometimes I come up with what I think are really good ideas. And if I don't write it down, then it'll fall out of my mind. 5 years later, I'll see someone launch something and think, oh my gosh, like I had that idea 5 years ago and I really wanted to do it. So I do take the time, we take the time as a team to document the ideas that I have and go back and prioritize the ones that we actually want to do something with. So, all that to say, I do want you to get your ideas out, but I want you to be careful about just taking action on things and not giving your content or your other ideas that you already launched or the things that you've written, the projects that you've actually launched, giving them a chance to breathe and a chance to actually make the impact that you wanted them to make. So for us next year, I'm going to be uncomfortable and sample myself. I'm going to sample stuff from Scarlett, and here's what we're going to do. On the Scarlett side, okay, our business is focused on finding leaders, encouraging them to see themselves as leaders, and helping them elevate to their next level of leadership. And so we've directed a lot of content to these leaders like you over the past 10 plus years. We've written articles that have been published in major publications. We've written blog posts that are on our website. We have a ton of social content. I've mentioned that I personally am an author of 2 books, Leader by Mistake and The Unexpected Leader. And so instead of just going and creating new things, we're going to go shopping from those old things. Now, we are a company that actually operates through an editorial calendar. We know almost a year in advance the types of things that we're going to be talking about from a subject standpoint. We know a year in advance. So for example, our editorial calendar for 2024 gets finalized at the end of 2023, so the end of this year. So I already know that in November next year, I'm going to be talking about X, normally gratefulness, because that's typically how we program our years. So I am going to be able to go shopping from the articles that we've written, any of the podcast episodes that we've already released, to be able to talk about good content or reshare good content that didn't really rise to the level of exposure that I wanted it to rise to. We're going to give it another chance. We're going to give it another life, right, in next year's editorial calendar. Me personally, the way that that's going to show up for me is also in the things that I have written and produced. So I mentioned the books just a short while ago, but it's also going to show up in the opportunity for me to look back through YouTube videos. You may notice, for those of you who follow us, I've created a number of different tools that sit at the intersection of entertainment and leadership. And we've been able to produce a number of series with Clark Bailey Media, the photographer and videographer that we've worked with for many years. And guess what? A lot of that content, while impactful, didn't really rise to the number of impact and the level of conversion that I really wanted it to for lots of different reasons. But guess what? It's time for us to do a remix and allow that content to breathe again. So I want you to stop and pause and ask yourself in this moment, where are there opportunities for me, meaning for you, to sample yourself based on things that you've already created? Let me give you a few examples. What types of degrees do you have? Is your degree just hanging on the wall, or does your parents still have the degree, they commandeered it for whatever reason? And you know that that degree afforded you the opportunity to become a better public speaker, a better negotiator, a better communicator, and you have those skills. You know how to do those things, but you keep pretending like you don't have those skills. Did you take a webinar, some type of online course that taught you to do a specific skill, and you have that thing within you, and you keep pretending like you don't, right? Because it is going to force you to think about it, maybe go back to those notes, and now it's time for you to dust that stuff off and use it. I want you to go down your own journey of identifying where you can sample yourself. Now, let me be clear about something. I am not saying that I don't want you to be a lifelong learner. I want you to be someone that's open to learning new things, open to garnering new experiences, open to going on different journeys. But do you need to do that all the time? Might you take a season, maybe this season right alongside me, and go on this journey of sampling yourself for a year, right? Giving yourself a break from feeling like you need to create, and instead use the things that you've already invested your time, your money, and your energy into. This is also for us going to show up in the work that we do in our Just Start space. And many of you have had the opportunity to physically come to a Just Start event. Of course, every year we hold the annual Just Start Summit. And guess what? When it comes back again on Saturday, April 20th in 2024, we're going to have a component of that that's based on you learning how to sample the skills that you already have. And the reason why that's so important in the Just Start Summit world is because giving yourself permission to start all in itself can be hard. It can be overwhelming. It can feel scary. I'll give you an example. I was just somewhere earlier this week. I was at an event that helped people to learn a little bit more about hotel ownership. Okay, give you a little hint there about some stuff that I'm working on. And honestly, walking into that room of other people who were interested in that space overall, the hospitality space, was slightly overwhelming, to be honest with you. It's a brand new space. I know very little about the space, but you know what was happening when I walked in? People were networking. It's like, Jacqueline, you know how to network. You might not know everything about hotel ownership and hospitality and all these other things. You might not be an expert at all this stuff, but in this moment, you know how to network. I had to remember, Jacqueline, sample yourself. You've been doing this. You've been networking, communicating with people for a long time. At least show up and do that in a way that you know how to effectively do well. All right. So yes, I know that when you decide to start something new, it can feel a little bit overwhelming. But when you can say, you know what, but I do know this piece or I know that piece, it makes you feel like you belong a little bit more, right? It makes it a little less cringe and a little less difficult. And you give yourself permission to show up again, right? The next day, which is ultimately what I did earlier this week. Okay. So those are some ways for us that sampling yourself from the Jacqueline world, the Scarlett world, the Just Start world, those are some ways that those things are showing up for us in 2024. Now, I would be remiss to talk about one other way that sampling yourself is going to show up for us in 2024, and it's a really, really big way. Next year, we're doing something huge in our world. We are sampling ourselves in the podcast world. Next year, we are introducing 6 seasons of podcasts. Normally, of course, we have 12 months and we program our editorial calendar around that. But next year, we're going to have 6 seasons of podcasts. And in between those 6 seasons, we're going to remix some of the 180-ish episodes that we already would have released at the top of 2024 and by the top of 2024. And we're going to reintroduce some of that great content that you probably didn't hear of, right? Because we didn't talk about it enough. We didn't promote it enough. And so next year, we're doing 2 things. We are sampling some content that we already released, but that may not have reached your earlobes. And we're also introducing the fact that our podcast is going to start being released on a new day. Starting in 2024, the Just Start From Ideas to Action podcast will start being released on Tuesdays. Of course, since this podcast has been released, we've been coming out every single Thursday. And I'm so proud that we've been so consistent with making sure that this podcast is in your box every single week. Next year, we're doing the same thing. We're just switching to Tuesdays. So we're doing some big things and some big changes next year, but still in the spirit of sampling ourselves. Okay. Now, let's talk about what this looks like for you. Okay. If you're like, Jacqueline, I'm in. I've created a lot of stuff. I've got a lot of things accomplished. I'm still paying back this student loan from all this stuff I learned in school. Please tell me how to reuse this stuff. How do I remix myself? Okay. How do I remix the stuff that I've already accomplished? How can I sample myself? So let's talk about a few things. The first is take a moment and head over to jacquelinembaker.com/175. The reason why I want you to do that is because these next tips, these next set of instructions I'm going to give you are documented there. So if you're like, ooh, I'm driving, hopefully you're not watching this and driving. Hopefully you're actually listening, okay, because we don't want no problems. But if you're driving right now when you're listening, or you're thinking, I just want something as a reminder for how to sample myself, head over to jacquelinembaker.com/175 to get these tips. And I promise you, I'll hold you accountable along the way. Okay, so first things first. As you're thinking about sampling yourself, I know how difficult it can be with you feeling like, oh, let me just create something new. I need something new. I want you to have a North Star. And when I say that, what I mean is that over at this podcast, over in my personal world, over in the Scarlet world, we have a North Star identification opportunity, the thing that you can go back to remember how you want to be remembered, the reason why you're doing this stuff that you're doing, what you're marching towards in your life actions overall. And it is your life thesis. All right. Your life thesis, your leadership legacy statement, same thing, is your opportunity to be clear about what all the actions that you're taking each and every day, what do they ladder up to? What do they amount to? Okay? If you head over to the show notes, literally, if you click the link in the show notes that says life thesis, you can get your own editable life thesis document. And it allows you to answer a couple of quick questions. I promise you it's just a couple of quick questions to answer just and start to get you in the framework and the mindset of coming up with that one statement that helps guide your path, direct your steps. All right. So to give you an example of what that looks like for me, let me tell you what my life thesis statement is. And for those of you who consistently listen to the podcast each and every week, you've probably heard this before, but let's hear it again. At the end of the day, when it's all said and done, when they're boxing me up, sprinkling some ashes around, I would love nothing more than for people to say that I help them start the things that they truly want to do and elevate to their next level of leadership. And everything that I do is rooted in those actions. From this podcast that we produce, from our annual Just Start Summit that happens, to our upcoming digital course, our first big digital course that's coming out in 2024 called The Emergent Leader, which I'll share a little bit more about, from our coaching programs, our webinars, our one-on-one opportunities to work with startups. All this work that we do is rooted in helping people see themselves as leaders, elevate to their next level of leadership, and start the things that they truly want to do. And having that one statement for me, it helps. It helps me make the decision real quick. Jacqueline, do you really need to create something else? Jacqueline, do you want to take that contract opportunity? Jacqueline, are you going to speak on this stage? So for you, perhaps what you need is some type of North Star, some guiding principle that helps you quickly decide, does this make sense? So if you're someone that likes to create, sort of kind of like me, you might need some type of guiding principle, guiding statement that helps you quickly decide, do I really need to create something else, or am I just creating to create? So go ahead and hit the show notes, click on Life Thesis, and quickly fill out your document so that you can have a guiding principle to help you make decisions quicker, or to decide that you don't need to make a decision at all because you can sample yourself. The second thing I want you to do is get yourself in the mindset and give yourself permission to document your wins without ridicule or without shame. Is it possible for you to sit down and write down 10 things? Okay, 5 things. If 10 makes you uncomfortable, all right, write down 5 things that you are really good at. And when I say 5 things that you're really good at, I want you to write down 5 facts about yourself. Because if you're thinking, oh gosh, write down 5 things that I'm really good at, am I gloating? What are 5 facts about you? All right, I'll go first, okay? I am a good public speaker. I am good at encouraging other people. I can host a really dynamic dinner party. I'm a great brainstormer. I am incredibly organized. These are not things that I'm gloating about, that I'm bragging about. These are facts. These are things that I know that I'm good at. I want you to feel that definitive, and I want you to feel that confident in making those statements about yourself. This is not you gloating. These are facts. And the reason why I want you to be rooted in these facts and feel good about sharing these facts is because if those things that you do, are a result of you creating great things and introducing great projects to the world, don't those things deserve to be revisited? Shouldn't you have the opportunity, or shouldn't you provide the opportunity for other people to experience those things, probably as a result of things that you've created previously? So I want you to write down the things that you're really good at without ridicule or without shame. I say all the time when we teach our public speaking and presentation courses, I'm constantly encouraging people to slow down. And one of the reasons why people don't slow down is because they don't like the silence. But truly, the silence is so powerful if you just let it do its job. I want you to also think about that in terms of how you move. I want you to give yourself permission to pause and think before you just do by default. Because sometimes we are overdoing, overworking, overcreating, overproducing, when in fact you already had something that you could have reused that required you to not be stressed out and overwork and overpay for things. Have you ever had an experience where you went to the grocery store to buy something, maybe grocery shopping overall, and you passed by the seasoning aisle? And you thought to yourself, oh, I need some cumin, I need some oregano, I need some seasoning salt. And you got home and you were like, oh my gosh, I already had this. And you end up with two of something. Well, that's happened to me several times. And one of the reasons why that's happened is because I didn't pause, look around and see, do I really need this, instead of just making a snap judgment, quick decision, quick purchase. Now, truly, like, it's not that harmful for me to have two cumins because we use a lot of seasonings in my house. But sometimes you'll get yourself in a world of trouble if you're overpaying for things that you don't need, especially when you're starting things that you want to do. Or you're paying for another certification. You're paying for another personality assessment. You're buying another set of journals or another set of books when you already have a book on negotiation and communication. So you're just flat out just wasting money out here when you could have just paused, looked at that bookshelf, maybe revisited that book that you bought, or maybe one that you already read, and looked at the notes that you documented and utilized that. But sometimes we are just operating on autopilot and not taking stock of the things that we already have and the things we already accomplished. For a second, I want you to think about something. How long do you think the average adult attention span is? Okay, so before you Google it, let me give you the answer. It's about 7 seconds, which means that as I'm saying what I'm saying right now, somebody is tuning out. And it's not necessarily because you don't want to be listening to me, because you chose this. Like, I did not force you to listen to me or watch me. But our minds move so fast that we're just operating on default. And we're wasting money, we're wasting time, we're wasting experiences, new experiences that we could be engaging in, because we're not taking stock of the skills, right, that we already have. So I want you to pause before you just go on autopilot. And I want you to think before you create or do. All right. I also want you to give yourself permission to go on a shopping spree. Who doesn't love a good shopping spree? But I want you to go shopping in your own tools, your own experiences, and your own purchases. All right. If I think about my bookshelf in my home, in my office, many of you have seen that bookshelf before because both of my books and many other people's books are on that bookshelf. If I give that bookshelf a good look, right? Honestly, it's 6 shelves is what I have down there. I would probably say a good shelf and a half is filled with books that I still need to read, if not more. And some of them people have gifted me. Some of them I've purchased as a result of supporting my friends, sometimes with multiple purchases of their book because I like to support other people. But I want you to take stock of what you have in the book category, in the article category. Think about the articles that you've bookmarked. Either you said that you're going to go back and read that article, you're going to read that quick blog post, and you never did it, right? Because of life. So I want you to go shopping in your own tools, your own books, and your own experiences. And I especially want you to shop in your own experiences. And it is because you would be surprised how many times people will come to me and say, Jacqueline, I need to see myself as a leader, or I'm about to start leading other people. I'm advancing from a self-leader to a people leader. And I don't know, I'm not sure how good I am at delegation or communication or any of these other skills. And I'll ask a couple set of questions. Number one is there a group of people in your life, either in home or, I don't know, a community org that you're giving instructions to? Oh yeah, I'm instructing people to do this in the HOA, or I'm instructing my kids to go and clean up their room or clean up dishes. And guess what? You be delegating, okay? You are delegating, but we forget that these experiences that we have in our life are actually the result of leadership skills that we have, and we're not giving ourselves enough credit. So, what are the experiences that you've had personally and professionally? And how might you be able to shop from the skills that you have as a result of those experiences to sample yourself, to utilize those skills to grow in your career, and give yourself permission to elevate to your next level? So I want you to go shopping. It's actually a free shopping spree, if we're being honest here, in your own skills, experiences, tools, and resources. The last thing I want you to do is I want you to join me on this journey. So for the entire year of 2024, I will be sampling myself. Jacqueline M. Baker will be sampling herself. And I want to know, are you willing to go on this journey with me? I want you to head over to jacquelinembaker.com/175. And I want a crew. I want a crew of folks that are willing to say, you know what? Enough is enough. I am smart. I've had some experiences. I have some tools. I have some things I've created, some paths that I've gone down on my professional journey, and I need to sample myself for many different reasons. You may want to sample yourself because it's time for you to give yourself permission to grow on your leadership journey at your job. You may want to sample yourself because perhaps, big smile from me right now, you want to start the things that you truly want to do. And you're like, enough is enough. I have some skills, I have some experiences. I may not have done everything right, but I've done some stuff right. And I really want to start something new. And to be clear, when I say start something new, what I mean is there a new project you want to start? Is there a small networking group you want to start? Do you want to start knitting? Do you want to start a cooking class? I know a lot of times when I say start, people think, oh, so Jacqueline's telling me to quit my job and just go out here and start this engineering firm. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is start to give yourself permission to start the things you want to do. Walk in the direction that you want to head in, because piece by piece, so many of your questions get answered in the action. Now, I don't want to go on this journey alone, because while I am going to go on this journey, while I am going to sample myself, I know that my mind, right, and my default really wants me to just start a whole bunch of new things. But it's time for me to live in the things that I've already created and the things I've already launched, the work that I've already put out in the world, and the experiences that I already have. And I would love for you to come on this journey with me. So head over to jacquelinembaker.com/175 and hit join me. Join Jacqueline as she samples herself in 2024. And I want to support you, and I'm hoping that you'll support me too. All right. Listen, I sent you a lot of resources in this particular episode, and they're all documented over at jacquelinembaker.com/175. I'm hoping that this particular episode encourages you to learn to leverage your own experiences. I'm also hoping a couple of other things as well. I'm hoping that you'll join me for the 2024 Just Start Summit. You can pick up your tickets over at juststartsummit.com, because yes, they're already on sale and we have some big things planned for 2024. I'm hoping that you'll consider joining our cohort of the Emergent Leader. It's our first big digital course that allows you to go on this journey with me of seeing yourself as a leader and elevating to your next level of leadership. And of course, I'm hoping that you go on your own personal journey of doing two other things. One, creating your life thesis, making sure that you have direction and guidance in the things that you're doing. And most important, especially for 2024, is sampling yourself. You taking stock of the tools, resources, experiences, and good work that you've already done out here in the world, sampling that stuff and using it to elevate to your next level. So listen, wherever you're at in the world, I hope that you're safe. I hope that you're healthy, and I certainly hope that you're well. I hope that you're giving yourself permission to truly start the things that you want to do. And I hope that you're going to go on this brave, bold, slightly uncomfortable, but really necessary path of sampling yourself. So how about we do it? Let's go into 2024 planning to sample ourselves and start the things that we really want to do. All right. Thank you for being here. And of course, I'll see you again soon. Ciao.